Chapter 22. Monsieur Papopoulos Breakfasts.
Please support by subscribing for more classic audiobooks.
Monsieur Papopoulos was at breakfast. Opposite him sat his daughter, Zia. There was a knock at the sitting room door, and a chasseur entered with a card which he brought to Monsieur Papopoulos. The latter scrutinized it, raised his eyebrows, and passed it over to his daughter.
"Oh,"
said Monsieur Papopoulos, scratching his left ear thoughtfully.
Hercule Poirot. I wonder now.
Father and daughter looked at each other.
I saw him yesterday at the tennis.
Said Monsieur Papopoulos.
Zia, I hardly like this.
He was very useful to you, Gans.
His daughter reminded him.
That is true.
Acknowledged Monsieur Papopoulos.
Also he has retired from active work, I hear.
These interchanges between father and daughter had passed in their own language. Now Monsieur Papopoulos turned to the chasseur and said in French.
Fates Montarcy Monsieur.
A few minutes later Hercule Poirot, exquisitely attired, and swinging a cane with a jaunty air, entered the room.
My dear Monsieur Papopoulos.
My dear Monsieur Poirot.
And Mademoiselle Zia.
Poirot swept her a low bow.
You will excuse us going on with our breakfast,
said Monsieur Papopoulos, pouring himself out another cup of coffee.
Your call is, ahem, a little early.
It is scandalous,
said Poirot.
But you see, I am pressed.
Oh,
murmured Monsieur Papopoulos.
You are on an affair then?
A very serious affair.
Said Poirot.
The death of Madame Kettering.
Let me see.
Monsieur Papopoulos looked innocently up at the ceiling.
That was the lady who died on the blue train, was it not? I saw a mention of it in the papers, but there was no suggestion of foul play.
In the interests of justice,
said Poirot.
It was thought best to suppress that fact.
There was a pause.
And in what way can I assist you, Monsieur Poirot?
Asked the dealer politely.
Voila,
said Poirot.
I shall come to the point.
He took from his pocket the same box that he had displayed at Cannes, and, opening it, he took out the rubies and pushed them across the table to Papopoulos. Although Poirot was watching him narrowly, not a muscle of the old man's face moved. He took up the jewels and examined them with a kind of detached interest, then he looked across at the detective inquiringly.
Superb, are they not?
Asked Poirot.
Quite excellent,
said Monsieur Papopoulos.
How much should you say they are worth?
The Greek's face quivered a little.
Is it really necessary to tell you, Monsieur Poirot?
He asked.
You are shrewd, Monsieur Papopoulos. No, it is not. They are not, for instance, worth $500,000.
Papopoulos laughed, and Poirot joined with him.
Es Yanni Mateisan,
said Papopoulos, handing them back to Poirot.
They are as I said, quite excellent. Would it be indiscreet to ask, Monsieur Poirot, where you came across them?
Not at all,
said Poirot.
I have no objection to telling an old friend like yourself. They were in the possession of the Comte de la Roche.
Monsieur Papopoulos' eyebrows lifted themselves eloquently.
Indeed,
he murmured. Poirot leaned forward and assumed his most innocent and beguiling air.
Monsieur Papopoulos,
he said,
I am going to lay my cards upon the table. The original of these jewels were stolen from Madame Kettering on the blue train. Now I will say to you first this, I am not concerned with the recovery of these jewels. That is the affair of the police. I am working not for the police but for Monsieur Van Alden. I want to lay hands on the man who killed Madame Kettering. I am interested in the jewels only in so far as they may lead me to the man. You understand?
The last two words were uttered with great significance. Monsieur Papopoulos, his face quite unmoved, said quietly.
Go on.
It seems to me probable, monsieur, that the jewels will change hands in Nice, may already have done so.
Oh,
said Monsieur Papopoulos. He sipped his coffee reflectively and looked a shade more noble and patriarchal than usual.
I say to myself,
Continued Poirot, with animation.
what good fortune! My old friend, Monsieur Papopoulos, is in Nice. He will aid me.
and how do you think I can aid you?
Inquired Monsieur Papopoulos coldly.
I said to myself, without doubt Monsieur Papopoulos is in Nice on business.
Not at all.
Said Monsieur Papopoulos.
I am here for my health. By the doctor's orders.
He coughed hollowly.
I am desolated to hear it.
Replied Poirot, with somewhat insincere sympathy.
But to continue, when a Russian Grand Duke, an Austrian Archduchess, or an Italian prince wish to dispose of their family jewels, to whom do they go? To Monsieur Papopoulos, is it not? He who is famous all over the world for the discretion with which he arranges these things.
The other bowed.
You flatter me.
It is a great thing, discretion.
Mused Poirot, and was rewarded by the fleeting smile which passed across the Greek's face.
I, too, can be discreet.
The eyes of the two men met. Then Poirot went on speaking very slowly, and obviously picking his words with care.
I say to myself, if these jewels have changed hands in Nice, Monsieur Papopoulos would have heard of it. He has knowledge of all that passes in the jewel world.
Oh,
Said Monsieur Papopoulos, and helped himself to a croissant.
The police, you understand.
Said Monsieur Poirot.
Do not enter into the matter. It is a personal affair.
one hears rumors.
Admitted Monsieur Papopoulos cautiously.
Such as,
Prompted Poirot.
Is there any reason why I should pass them on?
yes,
Said Poirot.
I think there is. You may remember, Monsieur Papopoulos, that 17 years ago there was a certain article in your hands, left there as security by a very, prominent person. It was in your keeping and it unaccountably disappeared. You were, if I may use the English expression, in the soup.
His eyes came gently round to the girl. She had pushed her cup and plate aside, and with both elbows on the table and her chin resting on her hands was listening eagerly. Still keeping an eye on her, he went on.
I am in Paris at the time. You send for me. You place yourself in my hands. If I restore to you that article, you say I shall earn your undying gratitude. ABN. I did restore it to you.
A long sigh came from Monsieur Papopoulos.
It was the most unpleasant moment of my career.
He murmured.
17 years is a long time.
Said Poirot thoughtfully.
But I believe that I am right in saying, Monsieur, that your race does not forget.
A Greek.
Murmured Papopoulos, with an ironical smile.
It was not as a Greek I meant.
There was a silence, and then the old man drew himself up proudly.
You are right, Monsieur Poirot.
He said quietly.
I am a Jew. And, as you say, our race does not forget.
You will aid me then.
As regards the jewels, Monsieur, I gon' do nothing.
The old man, as Poirot had done just now, picked his words carefully.
I know nothing. I have heard nothing. But I can perhaps do you a good turn. That is, if you are interested in racing.
Under certain circumstances I might be.
Said Poirot, eyeing him steadily.
There is a horse running at Lonesome's that would, I think, repay attention. I cannot say for certain, you understand. This news passed through so many hands.
He stopped, fixing Poirot with his eye, as though to make sure that the latter was comprehending him.
Perfectly, perfectly.
Said Poirot, nodding.
The name of the horse.
Said Monsieur Papopoulos, leaning back and joining the tips of his fingers together.
Is the Marquis. I think, but I am not sure, that it is an English horse. Zia.
I think so too.
Said the girl. Poirot got up briskly.
I thank you, monsieur.
He said.
It is a great thing to have what the English call a tip from the stable. Au revoir, monsieur, and many thanks.
He turned to the girl.
Au revoir, Mademoiselle Zia. It seems to me but yesterday that I saw you in Paris. One would say that 2 years had passed at most.
There is a difference between 16 and 33.
Said Zia ruefully.
Not in your case.
Declared Poirot gallantly.
You and your father will perhaps dine with me one night.
We shall be delighted.
Replied Zia.
Then we will arrange it.
Declared Poirot.
And now, Jaime Sauve.
Poirot walked along the street humming a little tune to himself. He twirled his stick with a jaunty air. Once or twice he smiled to himself quietly. He turned into the first bureau de poste he came to and sent off a telegram. He took some time in wording it, but it was in code and he had to call upon his memory. It purported to deal with a missing scarf pin and was addressed to Inspector Japp, Scotland Yard. Decoded, it was short and to the point. Wire me everything known about man whose sobriquet is the Marquis.
If you enjoy audiobooks like this, consider subscribing for more.